7:30 a.m. on this Saturday morning, January 10th, 2026. Hey, I'm feeling a little bit better today. Still a little bit under the weather. Strangely enough, though, once again, feeling so much better in a really rather short period of time after succumbing to, I guess, this nationwide flu that is still on the rise and surging throughout this country. Well, I'm going to begin with how I ended last night, beyond the factor of what I was doing on this platform in the wee hours of actually this morning, which was, of course, replying to comments. But beyond that, because of the warm temperatures and whatnot, well, we've had this scenario over the years of these very invasive stink bugs. Okay? And this is my bedroom lamp. And basically, I do a catch and release program. Turning on my light to the camera, I have this right here and it says, use for stink bugs, right? And believe you me, when I open this up, oh man, you get quite the whammy of a whiff of these fellas right here. So I'm going to go ahead and capture this guy, toss him in here so I can toss him outside. And we'll go ahead and continue on. Man, I'm going to have some fun with this video this morning. Alright? And let me tell you what. Man, my stomach is a grumbling and a growling. I am hungry. My appetite is back. My lung capacity is a little bit better. And of course, so is my thoughts. So let's continue on. This is going to be fun. I've got some great information pertaining to some of the headline topics of this day. And just other relatable material. Once again, this is going to be fun, and I am excited to bring this content or type of content forward. Alrighty, so as you might see, I've only got but a couple of these stinkers in here, and we are going to go ahead and toss them on out and be free. And well, unfortunately, yeah, our temperatures have gotten rather cold again. And there's between station to station from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids in the form of weather forecast, there's a little bit of a disagreement, and so we're just going to play it by ear and by sight pertaining to what our weather holds for us today, as there's some reports stating that we are to be rather sunny, but then it's supposed to evolve into snow conditions. We're on a winter watch scenario. Okay, in other words, they're saying, well, we really don't know what's going to happen, but well, this is what we presume. This is what we assume is going to be the case throughout this day and forthcoming in the upcoming days, which of course is more snow. And we're going to have fun with some snow facts as we continue on with this recording. Alright, so continuing on, and unfortunately, you know, this is now making its rounds on the platform pertaining to, you know, fake coffee. And I've been drinking this style of fake coffee for a great many years. Alright, so, you know, if you want to demonize me over what I practice in comparison to what I preach, well, let's just say that I am coming clean, okay? Because that's what this Weaver does. And Weevex, I have no idea what company that is. Not even sure where I acquired this coffee cup, but my last name's Weaver, so, you know, yeah, okay. Okay, now what I'm about to show you is in fact copywritten material. But when I ordered this, and through the author himself, states that this is information that is to be shared. Okay? Now I am not going to go deep into said information because of the copyright aspects, but this is information towards possible educational purposes. But I just want to relate this in comparison to what comes up next. Okay, so yeah, and it's all health related information. Okay, and which there was a lot, and I had to pay for this. Well, I was supposed to pay for it, but I got refunded my money, and I was able to keep what I had ordered. That was part of the bargain. If I was not satisfied, I was able to keep this stuff and still share the information. But once again, my money was reimbursed because I was not thrilled with the aspects of, and I'll show you this here shortly. Once again, I'm not going in depth with this, but this comes through this book here. Okay? And throughout this book, basically a lot of good information, but it also is short paragraphs involving this topic or issue, and then it asks you to seek further information by visiting this website or this or that, and basically it's a cat and mouse game. And this is why I kind of threw a little bit of a hissy fit when I realized this and decided, you know what, I wanted the information right here in this book and not have this book have me work that much more to find out information. But this is critical and crucial because of what I am going to show next. Okay, so once again, I started off my morning with a quick cup of weekly made instant coffee. And of course, I use ordinary tap water. Now, unfortunately, we have a very bad case of hard water. You can see the buildup. I can clean this off, and it only takes but a couple of uses of this sprayer to where the calcium and the lime and all the other heavy components to our hard water builds up. Okay? And we also have a lot of rust that flows through our pipelines here. I've shown that in the past. Very unhealthy if you ask me. So I try to remedy what I intake. Some of that is through water filtration, through a Brita water filter pitcher, which basically does not really filter out that much, but it makes our water taste a whole heck of a lot better because so much chlorine is added to our tap water that, once again, as I've stated in past content, you let the cold water run, especially on days where they have either on days or after the day to where they just completely flood the water with chlorine, apparently because so much bacteria builds up in our water supply here that they have to use an overzealous amount of chlorine to where when it comes through the faucet, it can literally start tearing up the eyes, and it is it really reminds me of swallowing down swimming pool water. Okay? Now, beyond what I typically use as the start to my morning beyond the coffee. I'm going to look into this oil of oregano. I've never really have known about this, but it's supposedly in order to kill off parasitic infections of the body. And because of my interactions with the feral cats out back and other aspects of my physical nature, it is wise for me to at least look into this. But I'm going to go ahead and show, how I make my rocket fuel drink in the morning, beyond what I've already shown far into the past. So of course, we begin with just a regular 8-ounce glass of water, right? Without the water yet. And I begin with the lemon juice, and which has just been recently incorporated and sort of modified into my rocket fuel drink. And the reason for the lemon juice is because of the situation to where I ended up having to have surgery on my arm because of a build-up of blood clots in my arm due to an on-the-job injury, which, well, yeah, I got screwed over through workers' comp as well as disability, but I'm on SSI and still having severe complications to where I have to continue on with trying to rectify what issues I'm still having with this arm and the surgery that I had to go through, in which, yeah, the scars right here, to where they had to come in, and which this artery right here is still blocked with blood clots. This side here is not, and this is where they cleaned, and all the way up into my shoulder, and to where they end up having to apply a stent, which last known it failed to work. And so I use this to help with the blood clotting scenario. Okay, and to where this is, I don't know if you can see this or not. Whoop. This is actually a half tablespoon, or what is it, 7.5 milliliters? I don't know, I'm having a hard time seeing what it says here. Of course, white background. Maybe if we, nah, screw it, you just have to trust me on that. So anyways, and I always shake the stuff up, right? Whoop. And I just lost my, okay, oh man, a little bit too tight there, Muggsy. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I gotta do this rather quickly, man. I am like starving. Is that a parasite telling me something? I don't know. Okay, so that goes in. Okay, so then we go to apple cider vinegar. Why do I use this? Well, I've explained that in the past, and where that information came from as far as an old Kentucky remedy. But once again, gotta shake this stuff up, and this is basically because of that water condition, as apple cider vinegar is a great antitoxin, and not only that, it just destroys calcium buildup, especially the calcium buildup to the pineal gland of the brain. Okay, so, in which actually you can do this drink a couple of times per day, if not, 3 times a day, for specific reasons. So 1, whoop, and a little bit more than 2. No biggie. A little bit of extra never kills anybody as far as this goes. Whoop, and there we go, losing our Okay, so from there we go to the, and I do not recommend this unless you know exactly what you're doing, but hydrogen peroxide, okay, and which this is not supposed to be ingested, 3%, okay, but, and once again, I am not recommending any of this. This is just what I do. But, and furthermore, the amount of what I use is also not recommended. But I have built up a tolerance for this stuff. Okay, and so I go with, make sure that we're 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, why do I do that? Well, according to that information that I just showed you within that book, this is a discovery through the scientists of Adolf Hitler and his search for a cure for cancer because of his mother succumbing or dying from breast cancer. And it terrified him so much that he would contract cancer through his genetic inheritance that, well, that's why he rounded up so many different health scientists in order to try to find a cure for cancer, and hydrogen peroxide was what they came across. Now, this is just information that I'm sharing that came to me. I am not saying that it is of reality or not, but I have incorporated that into my life. Now then, last but not least, other than the turmeric powdered, which I don't have any on hand because, well, just cannot find the proper type that I like to use. But this is raw organic honey, which came from Walmart. Usually I get this from Walmart. It's very expensive, but it had already begun the crystallization process when it was delivered to me, which is really upsetting. And I actually had to nuke this. I tried just using hot water, soaking this in hot water to break up the crystals. I actually had to start nuking this in order to bring back some of the liquid. And you can see just how thick this stuff is, right? Oh yeah, squeeze, baby, squeeze. And got a good, healthy amount right there. And of course, honey being one of the nectars of the gods, right? So, and honey is great for the digestive system, and as well it helps with the nasal passages of the sinuses, and there's so many other great benefits to some of the products that I've shown. So from here we go ahead and, well, unfortunately, yep, we go to the tap water, the good old hard water tap water. Okay, so let's go ahead and start mixing this up because the honey does break down due to the lemon juice and the apple vinegar cider. So we'll go ahead and toss in the water. Well, unfortunately, I accidentally hit the wrong button. Instead of the pause button, I hit the stop button somehow. I don't know. It's still early morning. Forgive me, all right? So anyways, there we go. This is basically our hot toddy. And which basically, if done properly, minus like the lemon juice, it comes out tasting quite a lot like apple cider, or excuse me, yeah, apple cider that you would enjoy with donuts on a cold winter day and blah blah blah, right? All right, now that that is finished, and which basically this is supposed to be done on an empty stomach, but you know, I like to wake up a little bit with a little bit of caffeine, which of course caffeine, you know, basically it's not all that great overall. But now I can go ahead and let that settle. My stomach will be satisfied for the time being as these properties go into my system, and I don't have to eat anything substantial for a little while. And that way now I can go ahead, as it is now 8 a.m., I can go ahead and start getting stuff prepared for the feeding, morning feeding out in the woods. A little bit later, I will be having one of these for basically heart health, if you will. I've actually developed quite the liking for these, and which 1 to 2 of these per day, and these are chewables. You've probably seen them advertised on TV here in the United States. I don't know about in other countries. And unfortunately, because I have not been able to get back into my weightlifting, bodybuilding, whatever, my whey protein, which I also modify, add other stuff in with it. And I've just been sitting and gathering dust for the time being. Now I want to go into some fun Michigan winter fun facts. Alright, continuing on, I'm just going to prop this in the bedroom window, showing what we got with our morning skies here, and of course, viewing through the screen meshing. Let's see if we can, well, and of course my voice carries, so I'll probably capture the attention of the cats. Oh yeah, okay, so hold on. Yeah, it's not going to be that great of a viewing, but okay, let's have some fun with this. Do you know, or have you ever heard of the term snurfing? No, not smurfing, as in those little blue cartoon characters, the Smurfs, but snurfing. Well, that is what snowboarding was originally called back when it was first, when it first came into existence on a Christmas morning in 1965 in Muskegon, Michigan, to where this man decided to bolt together 2 downhill skis. Already my voice is carried to where it's caught the attention of a dog. And of course the cats are starting to round up out in the woods, so I gotta make this quick. But anyways, so in 1965 in Muskegon, Michigan, this man decided to take 2 skis and bolt them together to create something a little bit more fun for his daughters. One daughter in specific, which just did a recent interview with one of our local news stations. As well, she was bored with the typical sled or saucer sitting down and sliding downhill. It just became too boring. She wanted something a little bit more dangerous. So as a good dad, okay, he complied with his daughter's wishes and once again bolted 2 of these skis together and actually made the first snowboard, which ultimately became an Olympic sport, a winter Olympic sport. Okay, this started in Muskegon, Michigan. Okay, and thing is, the Winter Olympics from today begins in 27 days. This was through a report this morning. Now, you could probably go to, I think it was WXMI or Wood TV that aired this report. I don't know, I was surfing the channels. But you know, they interviewed the most popular Olympic winter snowboarder, and he said, you know, he says, If it was not for this man and his creation for his daughter, through the love of his daughter, I wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be doing something quite mundane as a career, you know? So, but thing is, now let's go just a little bit further with Muskegon, Michigan, and how it relates to this ICE agent shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Because we got a restaurant in Muskegon, Michigan that has supposedly served ICE agents for many years and now will no longer serve any ICE agents, let alone allow them to enter the restaurant. That's how, this scenario of this shooting has affected us here in Michigan. Now then, what I really want to ask now is why the uptick and upswing in the shootings and the violence and the protests and all that. Why are all the news medias really hyping this kind of stuff? Of course, they always have, basically, but, and that's why they like to end these little news segments in the morning, whether it's Good Morning America or what have you, with, something feel good, to leave off with. A little psyops program, if you will, that's been going on for years and years and years. But once again, we are back into the really focusing hard and heavy on this. And is this a lead into furthering of gun control efforts? Yeah. Because, well, more people. I mean, we've got, we've also got this. Well, we're getting like Kalamazoo. Oh, well, we've got the safest streets that we've ever had because we've been rounding up the guns and taking them off the streets. And part of that is through the amnesty program of we won't ask any questions, just turn over your guns, just so we can get them off the streets. Okay, yeah. I'm not for or against, I'm not even going to go down the road of, this nonsense because once again, it's all power play of control tactics as far as I'm concerned. And to me, at my age and what I've seen throughout my life, it's just another sickening factor of, once again, the powers of control. And where, when it comes down to J6, January 6th, that they're still bringing up and whining and crying about, well, this is my beliefs of what actually was supposed to take place that day. It was not the Capitol building that was to be under siege. Okay? No. The attention was diverted to the Capitol building. Basically, it began that people wanted to take back the people's house, known as the White House. But once again, the attention was diverted to where they focused on the Capitol building and not the White House specifically. That's just my opinion. But I do believe that when there's enough controversy over the people's house, the people will once again retrace their steps, if you will. But that's, that's once again just my thoughts. And see, it's not just my voice that carries, if you've noticed. I'm not the only early morning voice. And her voice carries something significantly. So anyways, people, I'm going to end off with that and get busy with this day so I can get out, feed the critters, and then get back in here, feed myself. This is fun. I actually enjoy creating this. Let me know your thoughts, if you enjoyed this or not. But we'll go ahead and end up. I've got now to edit or splice together 2 clips in order to make one video. But I do have some cats out here waiting, so it's time to giddy up and go. And, come on back for a little bit more from this flip side of reality. Won't you please? Until then, take care, have a great one. Thank you ever so kindly for watching. And this is Skywise out. 8:25 a.m. I'm on my way out to the feeding ground. Got Oreo sitting right across from the balcony waiting on me, as well as Bat Cat that is also waiting on me, and of course there's others as well. And because we are having, once again, the onset of winter conditions, which is supposed to be continuing henceforth from this day and continuing onward into the future with no signs of anything comparable to what we've just experienced. Now I'm not going to take us out to the feeding grounds, but I would like to add on a little bit more material. If you want to claim it as bonus material, well, cool, whatever. And this way, maybe I can kind of override that scenario of a false ending by just saying, okay, this is additional material as bonus. But we've got the situation in this country to where we have, well, basically it sounds as though we have an epidemic on our hand known as the flu. And that's all that they are stating is there's been a heck of a surge in the flu to where it's actually hitting children hardest, most of all. The flu? Well, what the heck is the flu today? We got so many different variants, including that COVID, and, so many other strains, if you will, but they're just kind of loosely going with the narrative of the flu. Not even influenza. No, just the flu. So you have to take that in consideration over questionability of the narratives at hand. Now, let's go ahead and further that scenario of possibilities of how this even came about, right? What had we seen, at least here in the United States, from state to state, if you've been paying attention, is the high amount of overhead activity of the aircraft style. Going back and forth with heavy tails, trails, streamers that are noticeable. And then those that, while those major said tails, trails, and streamers are very apparent, well, right side by side is these no trails, tails, or streamers. Yeah, I know, I flip-flopped that a little bit. But these aircraft that exhibit no sign of exhaust material, if you will, that follow right along with past huge expanded trails and streamers. And then through all that heavy activity, well, all of a sudden we have this flu scenario. Now I am just going based on my observations as well as my illness, as I exposed myself to the elements in order, well, I guess to show and share the realities of the scenarios of these criminal activities that have taken place on a large scale basis, and how it is now affecting people's health. And pertaining to health, once again, with all this crap known as bioengineered ingredients and genetically modified organisms and nanotechnology, they are destroying, and the vaxes, they are destroying our natural, or so-called natural immunities, making us susceptible to their experimentations. And yes, I believe wholeheartedly in the factors that they are depopulating the populace through what they are doing. We are going to start hearing more and more about flu-related deaths beyond that of the pediatric type and kind. Yeah, sorry to end off on a rather lousy note. But of course, I won't get very many views because people like me and this channel are shadow banned from gaining a wide audience. And I have to laugh because I came across a video in the wee hours of the morning before I crashed out of a channel that was whining that they were shadow banned or being shadow banned. And this short video of a whiner had over 1,000 views. Well, me and a few other channels out there, we're lucky to get 40 views per video. And this schmuck is out there whining that he's being shadow banned. Come on. You know, once again, this is some fool that is trying to change the narratives. And when, you know, hey, you think I'd be whining if I was to get 1,000 views over, especially over content that I feel was deemable of viewing? What a schmuck. So anyways, I am headed on now to do what I gotta do. And of course, one of the last feedings before the snowfall supposedly starts to begin, and I want to just make sure that these guys get something enjoyable before that tends to happen. And so on that note, I'll just kind of override the typical ending and just once again, as always, this this is Skywise. And this is also Skywise out.